And so when I have a Q&A, I try to make sure that I entertain people the best I can and make sure that they laugh. Because
do your Janeway!
Do my Janeway?
Yeah!
Oh my God. The funniest thing was, there was an event that I was at, and someone said the same thing, and it was the entire Voyager crew. It was at the Museum of Television and Radio. They were honoring Voyager, Star Trek Voyager as a show. And someone goes, "Do your Janeway!" And I look over at Kate, and she's sitting right there, and I go,
Best story!
and Kate's just going,
Go ahead, do your Janeway. I want to hear your Janeway.
So I start saying,
Stand support, Mr. Kim.
I start doing that, and then Kate looks at me and she goes,
I don't talk like that. I said, yes, you do. I don't talk like that.
we had issues in the beginning. People were like, well, we like Voyager, but we can't really watch it because Janeway's voice bothers us. You know? And it's very interesting because she has a nice, regal sound. I mean, her sentence structure, she's very articulate, she's a well-spoken woman. But it just sounds like she took a balloon from a birthday party with helium in it. She just took a little bit of helium.
Hello, yeah, to see the wizard.
And it's kind of it's in the throat, like that. All right? Do not tweet this to her. Do not email this to her. This is just for you guys. Yeah, she's like, I'm doing it now. I go, no, do not. Okay, thank you. I'm kidding is better. All right, let's open up to questions. Anybody have any? Please. Yes. What was my favorite episode on Voyager? I would say there's 3 episodes. I liked Caretaker, the beginning, the pilot episode of Voyager, because I felt that was probably one of the best first episodes of any Star Trek. It was wonderful because it took us 31 days to film Caretaker. I worked 30 of the 31 days. Kate Mulgrew worked 16 of the 31 days. So Tom Paris and Robbie McNeil worked the most. Tom Paris and Ensign Kim worked the same people. Tom Paris and Ensign Kim worked the most of everybody. We both worked 29 to 30 days of the 31. Kate worked only 16. Bob Picardo worked 2. The Doctor worked 2. That's it. So that's one of my favorite episodes, just because we got to know each other then. That was my most fond memory of getting to know my fellow cast members. My favorite story from Caretaker was meeting Tim Russ Tuvok for the first time. I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, I'm Garret. Nice to meet you." And he's like, I'm Tim. I said, "Cool. Guess what? Your character name, Tuvok, if you take one letter away, you could have been Tupac, like a rapper." I thought I was being funny. He didn't at all. He just looked at me with this blank Vulcan. Honestly, Tim Russ is a Vulcan in real life. That's what it is. He looks at me with this blank look. He just looks at me, and then he starts speaking, and he says, "Rap music. Rap music is the reason for the fall of modern Western civilization." And I'm waiting for him to say, "Just kidding." He never said, "Just kidding." And that just continued our relationship throughout the years. Tim Russ is the type of guy, like I said, he's very Vulcan. You can walk up and say, "Hey, great day today. It's a beautiful day." Well, if you consider that the cumulus clouds on the eastern horizon have actually come, that's how he talks. That's his normal talk. My second favorite episode is Timeless, when the ship crashes into the ice planet. And old Ensign Kim has to save the day. That was fun. And I also like Tinker, Tenor, Dr. Spy, which is not a Harry Kim episode, but such a great episode for the Doctor. That's the one where, especially that scene in the conference room, where all the ladies of Voyager were flirting with the Doctor. I thought that was just magical. So those are my 3 favorite episodes. Thank you. Another question? Yes, sir. When the character of Cass was written off the show, how did that affect the dynamic of the cast? It was difficult, because anytime you go into a job as an actor with a set group of people that you work with, And then when they don't renew the contract of one actor for one reason or another, you know, you lose that energy. It's a very strange, you know, vacuum or void that's created. And I love Jennifer Lane, you know, and boy, it was so tough that one episode that they had Jerry Ryan come in. Jennifer Lane's still there, and as an actress, and as she was the youngest one on the show, she couldn't deal with it very well. And she became so introverted on that show that people were trying to talk to her, and she would just shut them out during that episode. And so everyone just sort of ignored her, except for me. I kept going over and talking to her because I thought, you know what, if this is going to be her last episode, I'm going to make sure that it's the best, that at least it goes by, you know, somewhat decently, right? So I sat with her while the rest of the guys were all flirting with Jerry, the new kid on the block. They're like, hey, Jerry, look, I can juggle. Hey, you know, so as they were, you know, they were being peacocks around Jerry Ryan, I stayed there and I made sure I talked with Jennifer the whole time. So to this day, I don't even know the reason why that happened, but it definitely changed the dynamic in a big way. And I love Jerry Ryan too. I mean, she's a wonderful person. But losing one and then gaining another cast member is never easy. So thank you for that question. Yes?
I'm a big fan of Star Trek Online. What was it like revisiting Harry Kim for that? The Delta Rising stuff?
She says she's a big fan of Star Trek Online. And what was it like revisiting Harry Kim for the new Delta Rising expansion pack? Yeah, it was refreshing. I actually enjoyed going back there. This happened about maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago. I actually recorded lines up in Los Gatos with Cryptic Studios for their whole new Delta Quadrant expansion pack. It's gonna be wonderful, actually. And I'm actually Captain Kim in that one. Thank goodness. Yeah. Oh my God. Can you believe that? I mean, I call myself the forever ensign, really, because if you think about it, that's a long time, 7 years to go without being promoted, right? I mean, I talked to somebody in the U.S. Navy. I said, if you're an ensign, which is the most junior officer, what are you 7 years later? Oh, you're almost lieutenant commander. Thank you. Lieutenant commander, okay. And then the writers made fun of that, right? That one time when Paris is demoted and remoted, and Kim says, "Oh, where's my box of tips?" You know, people joke around. And people ask me, if you were to write a scene on Voyager, what would it be? I say, "Oh, it's very easy. It would be Kim sleepwalks. Kim gets up out of his quarters and sleepwalks into everybody else's quarters and steals their rank pips off their uniform and just puts them all over his body like a suit of chainmail, you know." And walks under the bridge with just everyone. I'm Admiral times 5,000, you know. So yeah, the non-promotion thing was definitely a difficult thing to swallow. As an actor, I remember I called up and I asked the promoters. I asked the producers and the writers. I said, "Hey, how come Kim hasn't been promoted?" Their response, "Well, somebody's got to be the ensign. Somebody's got to be the ensign. That is not acceptable." So then I went to Kate Mulgrew, the actress playing Captain Janeway, as if she could do anything about it, right? So I walked up to her trailer, just, "Yes, what is it?" I said, "Kate, why haven't I been promoted?" She said, I know. Sorry, there's not much I can do. So that was definitely a difficult thing. While I'm on that topic, I will tell you an interesting story that happened. After Voyager ended, we finished in 2001. I was flying from Los Angeles to Baltimore, Maryland, with a buddy of mine, because our mutual friend at the time was the left tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. He's now in the Hall of Fame, Jonathan Ogden. So we were going to go see Jonathan play at a home game in Baltimore. And as we get on the plane, which was Southwest Airlines, they don't have seat assignments. It's sort of sit wherever you can sit. Just sit down. And so we get on the plane, and my buddy Aaron he's in the front of the plane. We're the last people to board. It's a full flight. I'm in the back of the plane. And so when we get off the plane, Aaron's already there waiting for me. And standing next to Aaron is a young Asian American guy, you know, and I automatically assumed that Aaron told him about, "Oh yeah, we're going to see our buddy Jonathan. My buddy Garrett's on Star Trek." So I just thought he was a fan. And as I walk up, my buddy Aaron looks at the Asian guy and he goes, "Meet Harry Kim." I thought he was introducing me, and I said, "Hey, thanks for watching the show. Thanks for watching." And Aaron goes, "No. This guy's name is Harry Kim." And the guy goes, "Man, I've been wondering if I'd ever get the chance to meet you. I mean, it's crazy because when Voyager was on the air, when it was actually in first run, you know, when it wasn't in syndication yet, when it was on the air, I was in the U.S. Navy. I was Ensign Harry Kim." And I go, "Oh, what?" He goes, "Yeah, it's crazy. Everybody in my unit would give me crap every day. It was like, I was Ensign Kim." I look at the guy, I go, "Oh man, we're the same." He goes, "Oh no, I got promoted." Here, let me pull the dagger out. Go ahead, take that one. There's no dagger too. Oh, one more. All right, take that one. So, yeah, even the real life Harry Kim got promoted. Ain't that a, yeah. All right, another question? Sir. Favorite something, what? Favorite moment behind the scenes. Favorite moment behind the scenes, we were filming in Bronson Caves, which is a location in Los Angeles that they have these natural caves, and it always serves well for alien, alien landscape. And I think we were filming that episode, the 47s, whatever, with Amelia Earhart. And I just remember it was a really hot day. The sun was beating down like crazy, and all the actors were like, "Oh, so hot. We need more water. We need an umbrella for shade. We need it." And we were just complaining. Everybody was just being really just like divas in a way, right? So after about a half hour of us complaining, all of a sudden Neelix, Ethan Phillips, flips out, right? He goes, "Shut up! Shut up! All of you, shut up! None of you is wearing a mattress on top of your head!" Because he's covered with 6 inches of foam, that headpiece on there. So he was way hotter than we were, right? And the funny thing, when he was yelling at us, his teeth, he has fake teeth, they flew out of his mouth too. He was so mad, right? And then at that point, we all looked at him and we were like, "You're right. We are wearing 6 inches of latex foam on top of our head. It's not that hot, So the moral of that story is, it's as bad as life can get. If you're complaining about a certain situation, there's always somebody else that is worse off than you, guaranteed. So it's all perspective. It's all perspective. If you look at it one way, you could be upset. You look at it the other way, you can be, it's not that bad. I can handle it. Right? Another question, I think, is yes. Yes. Is that your question? When Seven joined the show, you're saying Jerry Ryan made mention that Kate wasn't happy about that and how'd that affect the cast? Well, I'm a very honest, blunt person, and I've talked about this in the past, and it's gotten me in a little bit of hot water, but the honest to God truth is, when the show started, the character of the captain, the first female captain, in the publicity world was called The Hook. That's what everyone was interested in. Every major piece of publicity, we're like, "Oh my gosh, let's do an interview with the first female captain." And rightly so. That's the first female captain in the history of any Star Trek, series. And in 1995, when we premiered, after our pilot episode, we received numerous death threats at Paramount Studios from men saying, "How dare we allow a female to be in command?" This is 1995, not 1895. But there are people saying, "We're going to come on down, we're going to blow up your set because you allowed a woman to be in charge." I don't know why I do that weird accent, but I like to throw that in there. I mean, not that I get Southerners here, but I guess that's my standard redneck accent. So we got a lot of people who are pissed. But at the same time, in the publicity world, Tonight Show, everybody else, Entertainment Weekly, they wanted the captain. And I remember I was the only other Voyager actor to have a publicist. The only one to have a publicist that I paid money to publicize my being on the show. And nobody was interested in me. They were like, "Nah." And so my publicist, I went through 4 of them, and I finally fired the last one, and I said, forget about it, because the only piece of publicity I could get for the first 3 years before Jerry Ryan showed up, and it was all about the Janeway show, was small things like, oh, Garret, WKNPP in Montana would love to do a morning interview with you. So if you can get up at 4 a.m., that'd be wonderful if you could talk to them. They have an audience of like 12, so would you do that? So I got nothing, right? Well, when 7 of 9 came in, that became the new hook, right? Everything was about 7 of 9, a new hot board girl. And then all of a sudden, Kate, she lost her thunder. She didn't, you see what I'm saying? Tonight Show wanted to talk to Jerry Ryan, not to Kate. Kate was getting WPNY from Montana then, right? And Kate was like, wow, that's ridiculous, but Kate was also, her feeling was this: I'm the first woman captain. I have made strides for women worldwide. Gender relations are better because look what I've done. I've shown that a woman can tell everybody what to do, and she can be in command, okay? And then, how dare you bring this TNA in, almost, right? You bring this little slinky thing in. It's sort of 1 step forward for women everywhere, and now 2 steps back. That was her feeling. So her anger was towards the writers in the beginning. She actually did go to the writer and say, write that character out. I want that character out of here. And the writer said, nope, we're not going to do it. She went back again, write that character out. She asked the rest of us. I remember she asked me not to go do an interview with Entertainment Tonight. She goes, Entertainment Tonight's on stage 9. She called me in my trailer. She goes, I want you to boycott that interview. I don't want you to go to that interview. And I thought, well, I've been getting things from WKPI in Montana the whole time. I'm going to go to the interview. I don't care. This is great for me. So and also Robert Beltran. We didn't boycott any of that stuff. Everyone else did, though. She did get other people to get on her side. But what was really tough was that after the writers did not allow her to change the script or change the cast makeup, she turned her anger towards Jerry Ryan, and that was hurtful because now going to the set was like watching my mom and my sister fight every day, and it was hardcore because I have my relationship with each of those women, and I love each of those women as much as as my own parents and my sister, because I did. And to see that happening was just, the drama was very difficult to deal with, And I would also prefer that, now that I've shared this information, if you guys are at a convention with Jerry or Kate, now that you know this, don't bring it up. You already, you know the truth. It was difficult. And the thing is, it didn't have to be that way. You know what I'm saying? And there were just some very hardcore things. I remember I asked Jerry Ryan one day, I said, hey Jerry, did you watch the episode of Voyager last night? She goes, Garret, no. She goes, I don't watch the episodes. I don't. She goes, Kate has made it so that I hate Star Trek. I don't even watch anything like that because of just, it was a living hell for her, And I have so much, I give her a lot of applause for being able to withstand all that negative vibes. It never improved. I kind of wanted to do something where I had them both on stage at Dragon Con in Atlanta to try to break the ice, to kind of chip through. Because when I talk about this, and I'm keeping my energy in check right now, but I'm a very emotional person. So I felt that on stage, if I brought this up in front of fans and I started bawling like waterworks, that both of those women would step outside of their, anger and go, oh my gosh, So I wanted to be the bridge builder to bring them back together again. And I mentioned that to a manager that manages, appearance manager who handles Kate and some other people. And he looked at me and he says, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. And I looked at him thinking, you are a jerk for even saying that. All you care about is your commission. I'm trying to make people make things right again because it's not cool. There should be, because honestly, you don't see that when you watch Voyager. You don't see any anger between Kate and Jerry, and that's testament to their acting ability. They are so amazing. And the way the writers deal with us, whenever, the writers are very passive aggressive. They don't sit there and they don't call us up and say, you better toe the line, you better do this. They always write it into the episode. There was that episode with the Demon Planet where Paris and Kim go down, and we're wearing our suits, and I touch that silvery liquid, and it compromises my suit, and it's a life support is, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds before life support ends. And then Paris tries to help me back to the shuttle, and his suit is also blinking off. Okay, at that time, all the men of Voyager had eaten way too much candy and food from the craft service table, so we were all like 20 to 35 pounds overweight at the time. So the lines in that episode, you watch that episode again, as Tom Paris is helping Harry back, he goes, "Harry," I go, "Yeah, promise me one thing if we make it back alive." I go, "What's that?" "Promise me you'll work out." Exercise, bike, anything like that. I mean, it's just, that's how the writers dealt with that, right? If you watch any of the scenes with Janeway and Seven, the writers wrote into those scenes, the scenes where Janeway teaches Seven how to be a better human being. All of those things that they gave, all the lines they gave to Kate Mulgrew as Janeway to say to Seven were what the writers were trying to tell Kate to follow herself. So that gives you a whole new, so whenever you hear her say,
Seven, you have to learn to be more patient. Seven, you have to learn to do this.
this was the writers trying to say, Kate, you need to act this way towards Jerry Ryan. You know, so, what?
Wow.
Yes. Right, Jerry did nothing wrong, you're right. And it's tough that she couldn't let it go, but you have to understand in Hollywood, when you get wrapped up into things and you get told that you're the captain of the ship, things happen, and I'll tell you, every Star Trek that's ever happened, there's always been clashes between the women. All right? Whether it's Next Gen or Voyager, there's always been issues between the women. The guys are fine. There's never been, oh my God, Chakotay has a new haircut. I need a new haircut. How dare you? Why is Chakotay wearing that outfit? That makes me look fat. The guys don't care. Yeah, I just wanted a pimp. That's all I cared about, a rank pimp. Yeah. But anyway, thank you for listening to my bluntness here. But overall, time has sort of evened it out a little bit. But there's still conventions that they won't be at the same convention together. So, but it's my goal before I die to bring those two back together again, where they hug and squash it. As we say in the younger world, we got to squash that. So that's my ultimate goal, right? It's ridiculous. This is not something that should go to their graves. They should at some point sit there and hug, right? It should happen. Another question, yes? The movie I'm working on now, when does that come out? Are you talking about Unbelievable? Yeah, Unbelievable is a film, it's very much like Airplane. You know how slapstick Airplane the movie was? It's that kind of slapstick of a film, but set on a lunar base. So the main crew is basically myself, Tim Russ, Chase Masterson, Lita, Dumbo Girl from Deep Space Nine, and a marionette puppet of William Shatner, basically. Yeah, my favorite guy. Love that. So they're trying to get one last scene, one last cameo from one big name before they finish that up. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm also involved with a couple other fan films, not Star Trek Renegades. Everyone says, but I'm still on their site. I told them, you gotta take me off of that, because I backed out of that. But I am gonna do something with Star Trek Equinox, and also with Star Trek Axanar, too. Axanar actually gave me a choice of 3 Klingon roles to do. They said you could play the role of Richard Hatch's attaché, or his right-hand man, or you could play this one Klingon, or we also have the role of the Klingon captain of the prototype D7 Klingon warbird, which that prototype was faster, more powerful than anything Starfleet has. I said, I'll take that. I'll take that. So I'm pretty excited about that one. Yeah, so that happens. Yeah. I don't know what their goal is right now. If it's going to be a web-based presentation or in the theaters. I did Star Trek of Gods and Men, which was on the web. That was the precursor. The same people that are doing Renegades did Star Trek of Gods and Men. So if you have a chance, go to StarTrekOfGodsAndMen.com. You can see that. Other question over here? Okay, sorry. What is it like with... Oh, what do I think of J.J. Abrams' new direction of Star Trek? Well, I will say this much. J.J. Abrams has actually brought in so many more fans. And it's wonderful because the fans that they become fans of, of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, then they start doing the research and seeing everything else. They start watching Voyager, Enterprise, Next Gen, Deep Space. I myself, I was very upset because none of us were invited to the premiere of the 2009 first J.J. Abrams Star Trek film. I thought, why aren't you inviting any of the other Star Trek actors? That's a little odd. And so Rod Roddenberry, who is Gene Roddenberry's son, actually invited all of the cast, the crew, the people that were cameramen to Paramount Studios at a private screening of the Star Trek reboot. And I remember sitting there being so nervous. I was thinking, oh my gosh, this better be good. This better be good. I hope it's good. And that first shot, the camera angle was across the hull of the ship. And you hear the familiar pinging sound, and then the battle ensues with the futuristic Romulan vessel, and just that one scene where the one crewman, everything's going to hell on the ship, and the one crewman gets sucked out into space, and it's quiet, And I sat there and I was glued to that screen for 2 hours and 6 minutes. Not 1 second did I look down at my watch because I was thoroughly engrossed. I thought the pacing was perfect. I thought the casting was amazing. I thought everything was, other than the fact that Romulus was destroyed, Vulcan was destroyed, whatever. I didn't have that. Yeah, people have problems with that, but I love seeing the young Kirk. I love seeing the young Spock, and I thought it was amazing. So after that, I went to see the space shuttle take off in Cape Canaveral, and lo and behold, the IMAX theater was showing the Star Trek movie. So I said, oh, go again. So I went again. Met some people at the shuttle takeoff event, and I told them about the new Star Trek movie, and they said they hadn't seen it. So I set up an appointment with those guys. Like, let's go see it in Orlando. You guys staying in Orlando? They go, yeah. So I saw it at Cape Canaveral that night, the second time. Orlando the next night. Then I went back to Vegas, where I live. I saw it at IMAX there. Then I went overseas to Europe. I took a train for 45 minutes from Amsterdam to the outskirts of Amsterdam to go see it in Netherlands, there. And the funny thing was, doesn't matter where I went, whether it was Cape Canaveral, LA, blah, blah, I ended up seeing it 11 times, at the movie theater. Every time I walked up to buy a ticket, people would turn around getting their ticket. They'd see me like, what are you doing here? Watching a movie like you? Then in line for popcorn and candy, I would always go with myself. So I'd say they'd be like, oh my God, you're here. I'm like, yeah. Where are you guys sitting? Well, I don't know. Well, you want to sit with me? They're like, yeah. So I ended up sitting with fans. And actually a few times, I bought tickets for all the fans that were behind me. I was like, all right, your tickets are on me. So maybe like a year later, they had a Saturn Awards event where J.J. Abrams was the honoree special award. So J.J. was actually supposed to come to the after party. So I wait by the door of the after party for him to show up. And as he walks in, I go, hey, JJ, thanks so much for the invite to the screening. So I'm sarcastically saying that to him. And he's like, sorry. No, it's okay. I saw your movie 11 times after that, on my own. Oh, and I paid for all the fans behind me too, a couple times too. And he's like, what? He's like, huh? So that being said, I was a huge fan of the new J.J. Abrams movie, the 2009 one. The most recent one, Star Trek Into Darkness, not so much. And it's kind of funny because Star Trek feature films, it's almost like the even numbers are great, the odd numbers are off, right? So or every other one is kind of poopy. Well, I thought Star Trek Into Darkness, that acronym, STID, I actually tweeted. I said, STID stands for Star Trek Imitating Die Hard, because Die Hard is a huge action movie. That's, to me, that latest Trek film, to me, was pure action and not so much sci-fi. I then went on to tweet, Man of Steel, the new Superman movie, is more sci-fi than Star Trek Into Darkness, right? And then the whole reverse thing where you hear, instead of instead of Spock being inside the warp core, you've got Kirk being the warp. And then Khan, I had a huge issue with Khan. I'm sorry. Sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen it. But the whole thing with that was, Khan was if you're talking about canon, he's Sikh. Sikh is East Indian, okay? I know Ricardo Montalban is not East Indian, but he made an amazing Khan, okay? So at least try to go in that direction, right? But who does JJ cast? the palest, whitest British actor on the planet, Benedict Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch is a great actor. He really is. And I remember tweeting about that. All the Benedict Cumberbatch fans came down on me. They're like, "How dare you? How dare you say this about Benedict?" And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but it just didn't make sense. He should have been stated Harrison. And then when they had the camera going across the stasis tubes of the other crew members, they should have said, that's Khan right there, right?" And J.J. Abrams had a chance to cast somebody that would have been perfect for that role. J.J. Abrams produced a TV series called Lost. And in Lost, the guy that played Saeed is Naveen Andrews. Naveen Andrews, that actor, is Sikh, right? With that long hair, that kind of, husky body, he fit. He worked. If you look at Benedict Cumberbatch, most of the movie, he's wearing an overcoat because he's way too slender to be this genetically engineered super warrior. You know what I'm saying? That scene when he took out all those Klingon, he takes out 55 Klingon, Benedict Cumberbatch does. In real life, the first Klingon would have snapped him in two, like a little popsicle stick. Snap, done. Snap, crackle, pop, see ya. So that bothered me to no end. And then I mentioned that on Twitter, and a bunch of fans were like, "Well, do you know that Benedict spent 6 weeks with a personal trainer?" And I'm like, "Okay, all right, let's break this down. Take the average British male, right? Give him 6 weeks with a trainer. Now they're the same size as an American or Canadian male who never works out, okay?" Because we know what buff looks like in North America, right? And Benedict Cumberbatch ain't it. I'm sorry. I mean, if you already established Ricardo Montalban with those pecs that he had, I mean, we know that's imposing. That's like, wow, that guy's gonna do some damage. So, like I said, first J.J. Abrams movie's awesome. Second J.J. Abrams movie, I could have done without that entirely. And to me, it seemed like J.J. had Star Wars on his brain. He was thinking, oh my God, I gotta move straight to Star Wars. Because some of the stuff in the latest J.J. Abrams movie looked kind of Star Wars-esque in a way. Some of the uniforms of the people at Starfleet headquarters kind of looked like Empire uniforms from Star Wars. It was a little like, I don't know if I buy that. So it's a mixed reaction for J.J. A+ on the first one, and then probably C- on the second one. Although Into Darkness was a beautiful film, it looked gorgeous. It was filmed quite well, but I'm not a fan of it and how it went. Thank you for the question. Yes. She said the last time she saw me, I told some of the funny stories that she's ever heard, and she's asking me to recount the story of Jerry Ryan and the elbow. Okay. Anybody not heard the elbow story for Jerry Ryan? Oh, it's a fair amount. Okay. So, basically, in Star Trek, every Star Trek series has what we call walk and talk. The walk and talk is two characters walking down a corridor, the camera's sort of trailing in front of them, and you just see them talking and walking down the corridors of the starship. And this particular walk and talk was Jerry Ryan and myself. 7 of 9 and Harry Kim were just walking and talking. And the way we do things in Hollywood is we do a rehearsal. The rehearsal is not for the benefit of the actor. The rehearsal is for the benefit of the lighting crew, the camera crew, for all those guys to make sure they have everything right before we actually shoot it. So we do rehearsals with the director, and usually midway through it, if they don't like certain lighting or a certain camera move, the director will say, cut, back to one. Back to one meaning first position. So that's exactly what happened. We were walking. They go, cut, back to one. So as I'm turning to go back to my first position again, I reach back to be a gentleman and escort Jerry Ryan back to the first position by grabbing her arm, her elbow. But I realized very quickly that I didn't grab her elbow. I grabbed her breast, yes. And I remember looking over, and she just kind of looked down and she went, Gooby, so that's a nickname. Gooby. I go, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, I turned red, I turned purple. I said, I'm so sorry. I thought that was your elbow. And then all the crew are like, yeah, right, her elbow. That doesn't look like an elbow. So I'm flipping out. I'm so embarrassed. And now they take 45 minutes to an hour to light the set. So we've gone back to our trailers to wait. So then they call us back in 45 minutes after this boob grabbing thing that happened. And I'm on the set first, and all of a sudden I hear Jerry's familiar laugh. She has this crazy cackle laugh that she does. And I'm like, what is going on? So all of a sudden she strolls onto the set, just like the cat who got the canary, right? And she looks over, and I look at her, and I notice she has a Post-it note a yellow Post-it note on her shoulder, and it says elbow with an arrow pointing down to her elbow. Then she got another Post-it note over her right breast, and it says not an elbow, pointing down to her right breast. And she's like showing it off for me like that. And she goes, well, Gooby, I just thought you might need a visual aid in case you. And everyone is laughing. They're on the floor. So that was so embarrassing for me. Oh my God. Another question over. We'll take you. John Delancey? Yeah, what about him? What was it like working with John Delancey Q on set? John's a really. What's our time like? One more? This is the last one right here? Okay. All right, this is the last question. John Delancey is the ultimate professional. You know, he's very. But I'd like to tell the story. I'd like to end with this story of John Delancey. I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma for a convention, and Tulsa likes to have a talent show where they ask the actors to do whatever they can do, whether it's singing or reading some poetry. So John Delancey's talent show segment was he was reading a short story called "The Devil and Daniel Jones," and it was filled with profanity. I mean, there's curse words all throughout this thing. And we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Bible Belt of the United States, right? So I was already just antsy when this was happening. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's an issue here. This is not good. And so after he says all this curse words, and he goes, the end. He closes the book, he gets up, and he starts walking through it's sort of like this pipe and drape that's over here on the side. It was a pipe and drape stage. And he walks through the entrance, and as he walks through, the entire stage collapses. The only reason why he was not dead is because he was in the doorway part of the stage. It just crashes. And all the fans are like, ugh! And I said, oh my gosh. So now they're trying to build the set back up, and I had to stall for time. So I'm emceeing the whole thing. So I grabbed the microphone, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, John Delancey, aka Q, is so powerful that the entire stage came down around him, And I said, it's not unlike He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, right? Because when He-Man, and while I'm talking about this, there's a fan sitting in the front stage wearing Lord of the Rings as Gandalf, and he has a staff with that actually lit up, and I go, can I borrow that staff? And they go, sure. It doesn't light up. He hits the ground, the top thing lights up. I go, oh, okay. So I grabbed that. And I said, basically John Delancey is it's like He-Man. So I took the staff and I said, by the power of Delancey! So I just made that up, just to make people laugh. So what happened was, after that whole incident happened, the next day when I was on stage, somebody raises their hand and I said, yes, do you have a question? They go, no, this is more about a story. Well, you know how you talked about John Delancey having so much power and everything, and by the power of Delancey. Well, me and my friends, we left the convention, and our pickup truck broke down like about a mile outside the convention. We couldn't start it up again, so we pushed it to a gas station, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. So then we looked at each other, and we said, why don't we use the power of Delancey? So, two of them put their hands on the engine, while the other one was in the car with the ignition. And the ones with the hands on the engine they both said, we invoke the power of Delancey, start! And the guy turns, and it turns over, right? Okay, that's how it began, and that thing, the mileage from that story went on and on. I got calls from people, I got emails going, yeah, we were trying to play the Voyager DVD in our laptop and it wouldn't work. And sure enough, we touched the laptop, we said, by the power of Delancey, work! And it worked. Somebody else goes, yeah, I was out of work for like 6 months and I couldn't believe it. I was thinking I could never get another job. Well, right before I sent this one final resume, before I was gonna just kill myself, basically, I said, by the power of Delancey, get me a job. I am employed now. Someone else goes, yeah, I was in Vegas and I was down on my luck. I lost all my money, whatever. And we went to the slot machine and we just said, by the power of Delancey, win. And I won a jackpot. So all this stuff happened because of John Delancey. Q. But anyway, thank you guys so much for coming on my panel. I'll be signing autographs downstairs, and thank you. Good to be back in Ontario. Thank you guys.